This is a Santa Cruz 5010. Let's get at it. Alright guys, so we have another Q&A today. We have Mike again. Last time you saw him, he talked about his Yeti Sb6c. And today, we're going to talk about a bike that is pretty much a chameleon in everything that it does. It's a one quiver solution, and there's a lot of reviews like that. Today we're going to talk about the Santa Cruz 5010. Mike, when did you get your Santa Cruz 5010?
Like a year ago. In November 2015, I bought it.
Okay.
So it's a 2016 model.
Okay, so I know you bought a Santa Cruz Nomad first.
Yes.
And then you decided to buy Santa Cruz 5010. What were the reasons on why you decided to get a 5010, and maybe some of the viewers out there, why would that reason be?
I bought the Nomad. That was like a big project for me in February 2015. It was the 15 model, so the all black.
Okay.
And because I always rode big bikes, and I wanted something really burly for the bike park and trail riding as well. The problem is I had trouble keeping up with you guys because everyone here has a trail bike and I'm on this 6.5-inch big hitter. I was thinking about the 5010 and you were raving about it. You have a great review on yours. So when the new 5010 came out, the 2016 model, and the 15, I gave Andy a call and test rode it in White Park and just loved it. It felt basically like really just a small version of my Nomad.
Okay. So all the trails that we're going to be mentioning today, I'm going to leave a link on the description, so certainly check that out. I mean, I have a 5010, you have a 5010. There's a lot of people that have 5010s out there. It's just that's a great bike, and I think it's a great all-around bike, right? It's amazing, and you know they certainly improved on the suspension even more. But let's talk about kind of the necessary pain of climbing, right? How do you like this bike climbing?
I like it a lot, to be honest. Yeah, so that's a general statement because it's very nimble. So everything that I was missing on the Nomad, which still I repeat it every time, is a great bike for its purpose. But getting out on those trails here around here with these ups and downs, you can feel the 5010 is just faster. It's easier to pedal around, easier to flick around, hop off stuff. But the Nomad just plows through. It's sometimes the trail gets too boring on the Nomad, especially those trails here. Yeah. Not talking about Mountain Creek where and like the big bike parks out here. So the 5010 is really a good bike for going up and down. Okay. So I think it strikes a really good balance. What I noticed, however, is there was, I wouldn't say shocking, but on the Nomad I could climb without the front really lifting up too much. Okay. And with the same body English that I put into the 5010, I could feel the front tire wandering a little bit. With the 5010, yes. And I'm not sure where it's exactly coming from because the reach is longer on the 5010 because it's the new geometry that Santa Cruz put out. So you get used to it. And I think also one change that I made is I put it's an air spacer, I think, right? That was changed. Yeah. Because the standard configuration is 130 millimeter fork in the front, and I have 140.
Yeah, I think it was the lengthening of the dampeners.
Or the dampeners, yeah.
So to make it a 140.
So to make it a 140 to be even burlier. Okay. Because I'm also 205 pounds, 210 pounds, so I wanted something that is really capable going up and down. So I think that influenced it a little bit. Okay. But the moment when you know it, when you're prepared for it, you just go for it.
Yeah, you adjust.
You adjust to it. Okay. And so I wouldn't say it's a drawback, it's just something I noted from the beginning because climbing on the Nomad is different, it's slower. And on the 5010, it's more engaging. Okay, so that makes sense. And you know, I remember reading up when the V2 5010 came out that it tended to wander a little bit, but once you get used to it, like everything, and it's great. But I have to imagine that extra reach, that lengthening on top tube that may have made it wander, maybe helped you out on the descents. Like how do you feel about that? Yeah, I like It's interesting because also during our trip to North Carolina, I used the 5010 on those trails and
Which specifically? Dupont, right?
Dupont's trails, yes.
Yeah, okay.
What I feel about the 5010 is I haven't reached its like limits, and I think it's also my limitation, my riding style.
Okay.
But what I like about it, it's the setup that I have allows me to ride basically everything. Would I like to take it to the bike park? Maybe not. That's why I have a Nomad for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But on the trails, yeah, if I have to drop 3-4 feet, doesn't matter. If I just go into the flow, if there's a rocky portion. So descent is really amazing on this bike. I really like this bike going down.
Now, so far you've talked about the comparison to the Nomad.
Mm-hmm.
How does it descend compared to your SB6? So let's talk about this. This is not your bike. There's a reason why we have this, and we'll talk about it in a second. But the rear suspension is 130 for the 5010 V2.
Correct.
The SB6 is what?
It's 152.
152.
Yes.
And then the Nomad is 160. 165. What is the main difference descending that you could articulate to the viewers compared to a SB6 and a 5010?
It's difficult to say. I think that the SB6 is more capable.
Okay.
It gives more stability at speed.
Okay.
But I don't think it's just the suspension design, because the SB6 is a really long bike.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the wheelbase, it's even longer than my Nomad.
Okay.
So that helps.
Okay.
The suspension is extremely active, but that holds true for both bikes.
Okay.
I just feel that you have more room
Yeah.
for errors and depth.
Yep.
Yeah, and that holds true also then comparison to SB6 to the Nomad.
That you,
and we
that
talked
you
about
mentioned that.
exactly.
Okay.
So you feel that the 5010, and maybe it's also a setup thing, but it's shorter. You can feel it's stiffer. So you wouldn't like to drop too high, and you wouldn't like to go through too gnarly stuff.
Okay.
So I think the 5010, as I said, it's a good balance.
Right.
But it's not the best climber when you compare it to maybe the cross-country bikes.
Okay.
But it's also not
Those
as
aren't
good.
as fun anyway, so sorry. They're just not as fun.
But I would say when you go down, the 5010 does everything that my capabilities allows me to do.
Okay.
So that's why I like this bike a lot.
Okay.
Because I can go fast, I can drop, I can jump with it
Okay.
within my limitations. The SB6 would allow for more, and it's a little bit more comfy to going through rock gardens, for instance, and you just feel it's made for bigger stuff. So that's why I have those bikes. There's a purpose for them, and so I'd rather take the 5010 for trail riding. I do our loops here in Pittsburgh, and I think the gnarliest part that I have taken the 5010 on, because I just wanted to see how it does, is, and because you do that too, is on Dr. J's, this little free ride trail here. So it works too. Is it a bike I would always use for that? No, definitely not.
Okay.
Yeah, and the error margin, I think, is just different with those bikes.
Okay. So we live in western Pennsylvania. There's certainly a good amount of hills here, but it's certainly not big mountain riding like Pisgah or even West Virginia. So that being said, that's a reference point on why Mike chose this bike and why I even chose my 5010. With all the bikes that you've mentioned so far, would you consider that, I know the answer to this, but would you consider that your everyday bike?
Yes, I would consider it an everyday bike for most of the things that we do around here.
We spoke about how it descends and how it compares to the Yeti Sb6 and the Nomad. We spoke about the climbing. How about like just everyday trail riding? One of the things that I consider to be a great suspension design is the fact that you don't have to fiddle around between, descend, trail, climb, whatever. Like, do you play? I know with my 5010, I leave it on a setting based on what I know the trail is going to be, and I leave it for the most part. Do you feel like you do the same, or do you like flip around with a shock?
I don't anymore. I was playing around with it, and I used it a lot on the Nomad.
Yeah.
So I had it
Because
with
you
trail.
needed it probably.
I think so.
Okay.
On the 5010, I leave it in open.
Okay.
I have it set up, relatively flush, 30% stacked. I leave it open, and it does what it's supposed to do. I sometimes I lock it out when we're on the fire roads. But when we're on the trail,
the up and downs, like not, you don't mess around with it. That's good. Because, you know, there's a lot of shock technology out there, but, you know, I think Vernon Felton from I think he's in Pink Bike now.
right
he
now,
used to say that the soul of the bike is in the frame, and I believe that. So that design is there, and that's good. That's good. So let's talk about the suspension that you have. So right now, your front fork I know is a pipe.
The rear shock is the Fox Evo, so
Kashima.
it's Kashima code, yeah.
You ended up getting the XO build, right? What other upgrades have you done since you bought it in November 2015?
Well, not that many upgrades, but I swapped out the wheel set.
It's a big upgrade. What is it? What did you get?
I got the Ibis 741s because you were raving about them so much.
Okay, so you have a carbon on carbon on carbon. I mean, that's a beautiful bike.
It is, yeah. They did a good job.
Yeah, so I think you might have heard me say this before. We certainly work with Andy from Pathfinder in West Virginia. Certainly worth a look. Everything that Mike and I have done with our bikes and my current build right now, we work directly with Andy. Check it out. It's Pathfinder in West Virginia, Morgantown. So Mike, we have this frame right here. Tell me what happened.
Well, I was hoping to have a good story also to tell with that frame. I hope it's visible. It's like not even a crack, but there's carbon parts missing in this frame, and that's the original frame that I got with the bike. That is now my bike has a replacement front triangle. And it's with the crash replacement of Santa Cruz, so I'm very, very happy. Yeah, it was still $600 to get, but it's better than replacing the frame. And Santa Cruz and a carbon specialist both looked at the frame and determined it should be replaced. First we thought it's just cosmetic, but apparently also underneath the crack goes on, and so it was determined it's better to not ride this bike like that and get a replacement front triangle. What happened? It's a good question. I don't know where it happened. I know that I was with Josh in Raystown. We had an awesome time. It was my second or third time on the 5010 in Raystown. Well, and when I cleaned the bike after our ride, I saw that crack, and
so I guess the more important thing is that, you know, these things happen, and you have to have a good partner when you're replacing them. So when you worked with Andy on this, what would you say about not just his customer service, but Santa Cruz customer service? Because that's really important, right? I mean, every one of us out there invest in our bikes, and we certainly hope that the brands and the local bike shops that we partner with are there for us.
Well, Andy took good care of me right away. I called him, I have a problem with the 5010, you should look at it.
Right.
So I left the bike there, and he said he's going to check with a carbon specialist in California, but he's also going to talk to the sales rep that he's working with and Santa Cruz directly. And all three determined right away there's not much you can do about that. So they said the best way to do is to get a front triangle, and it took like a week.
So it took a week from Andy saying, you know what, you need a new front triangle, for Santa Cruz to
ship it was like another week, and 2 weeks later I was on my bike again, and he did an awesome job to swap those parts. So the front triangle arrived, and a day later I had my bike back. So it was very fast, and I was on the bike very quickly.
Okay, so that's another good thing to note, is that, you know, it's not just a local bike shop, but it is the brand, right? You just make sure that when you buy a bike, make sure that the brand will stand by the local bike shop that you're working with, and the local bike shop you can trust. And this is case in point. Like, you know, everyone wrecks, and in this case it wasn't even a wreck. But, you know, those are the things that should put everyone at ease. So that's good. So I guess the last thing is that I think this is the last Q&A with Mike, at least here stateside, in a long time.
That's right, yeah.
Mike is actually going back to Germany, and hopefully the next video that we have together is going to be somewhere in Italy.
Hopefully.
Hopefully. Yep. Or maybe somewhere out west in the US. So good luck.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, but as always, we keep in touch. We'll keep on riding.
That's right. That's the best thing about mountain biking. You make really good friends, and it's an international sport that you could, so many great places to go.
Yeah.
Right? So thank you so much. Please subscribe. Check it out on Instagram and Facebook at PittsburghActive. I'll see you guys later.